So winter is a great time to prune your trees. For anything deciduous, they've dropped their leaves, they've dropped pods, and you can clearly see the structure. So it makes it a little bit easier to determine what you're going to be cutting and why. So when we prune, we want to ask ourselves, why are we pruning? You don't want to prune just for the sake of pruning or because you feel like you're on a regular schedule or everyone in your neighborhood is doing it. You really want to have a purpose before you make every cut, because the plants are dependent upon every one of these limbs to produce food for them. And so every time we make a cut, we're taking that resource away from them. So we want to make sure that it is serving a purpose. So a few things that we look at are removing dead material. So if you have any dead limbs, those can be removed at any time. You also want to look for crossing limbs. Anything that's rubbing when it's windy or growing into each other, it really exposes the inner part of that wood, removes the bark, and opens up the plant for disease and insect pest pathogens. So those can be removed. You want to look at where the direction of the limbs are actually growing. Look at a limb that's quite young and see where it's growing. Can we guide it to where we want it to be? If not, then maybe if it's going to be impacting some larger limbs, make a cut early on, because those smaller wounds heal a lot faster than a larger wound. So those are a few things to consider. And then you want to make sure that you're using the proper tool for the job. So if you have a pruner such as this, and it's only rated to be 3/4 or even an inch, and maybe this is an inch, sometimes that's a little too much that we're asking of this pruner. It's going to be doing damage to our tools, as well as not making a clean and healthy cut for the tree. So in many cases, anything an inch or larger is going to require a saw. There are many types of saws available. Really, you just need to make sure that it is sharp and sterilized before you use it. You're not wanting to use dull and rusty blades. So those are a few things to consider. There are also loppers that you can use that give a little bit more leverage if you're cutting overhead or if you have a reach, and a lot of them have a much bigger diameter cutting capacity. So a few things to consider there. In addition, where you make the cut is really critical. So let's say that we know this limb here needs to be cut. You want to look for a swelling at the base where it gets a little bit wider, and a lot of times, depending on species, there will be a different coloration on the bark. So you're looking for that branch bark ridge or that collar there, and you don't want to cut into that. There's actually different material there that's going to speed the healing. If you cut into that and make a flush cut like this, you're going to be doing more damage to the tree, and a lot of times that cut is not going to scar over very well. So your goal ultimately is going to be cutting perpendicular to those limbs. You have a round cut then instead of an oblong cut, a much smaller surface area for healing. So you would want to make your cut somewhere in here. And in many cases it might look a little different, look odd that you have this little bump here, but that will heal over and scar and close much faster if you're making the decision to leave this collar intact. You don't want to just start cutting with one quick cut. You want to use the 3-cut method, which again, there's a ton of information in books and online for how to do that, and that keeps the branch from all of the weight of that branch pulling down and stripping bark throughout the rest of the tree. So a lot of information online. We have a lot of classes and information at the Springs Preserve, and happy pruning.